Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an afternoon live. How about that? I switched it up on you guys. Keep you on your toes. I decided to come on and do an afternoon live. I don't know if we'll have a big crowd or if it'll be a smaller crowd, but it's whatever. It'll be fun, whichever. See, we have some of the usual suspects in here. Marina girl said, remember to hit the like button, everyone. I saw that. Good morning, Teresa and Ina, Catherine, Ray. I saw that Bill's going to be listening while he's working. Good afternoon, Amanda and Huckleberry Hound. We got a lot of people in here. Parker Marie. Oh, good. I'm sure more people will flow in as we are talking and stuff as well. So if you guys wouldn't mind, hitting the like button, it does help the channel grow. Here, put my camera on. It does help the channel grow. I would love that. Love channel growth. If you enjoy the case coverage or at least appreciate the case coverage, hopefully you'll hit the subscribe button as well. Trying to make it to 10,000 subscribers right now. That's our next goal. Nancy cardboard cutout. She's waiting. I'm going to get her at 10,000. We're going to get some Nancy in here. I wore my green today just in case I didn't see you guys tomorrow because it is going to be St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. So happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody, if I don't see ya. Also, if you want to become a member, I'm going to put that in the chat really quick. Oh, look at that. We got someone from Ohio. Suzanne from good afternoon from another person in Ohio. And hi to everybody else that's coming through the chat. I love it. Let's see, how many do we have now? Let's see if I should know that. We're at 6,774. So we're doing pretty darn good. We're getting there. We're getting there pretty quick too. I was going to see, I used to be able to put it up on the chat. Now I forget how I used to do that. Because we did at 5,000 subscribers, we did a contest and then we did I got my sign. So we'll do another contest, of course, at 10,000 subscribers too, or another giveaway. It's not really like a contest because we just do giveaways here. We don't make you do too much for the giveaway. Some of these giveaways, you got to people will have you comment on this video and that video and this, and I'm just like, that's just way too much. But yeah, so we're at 6774 right now. So hopefully some more people will subscribe today. That'd be nice. We're always going up, so that's always good. Every once in a while, if you'll put a video out, maybe you'll lose a couple subscribers because maybe they don't agree with it. But other than that, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure in the comments. Oh, hi, was it Pisces? Okay, I can't say that one. I don't even know what that is, girl. Campaign. Hey, y'all, listening and driving. You are helping me march through all on a terrible time. It's a case in itself, but I can move if I'm listening and understanding how terrible this world has becoming. Definitely. This world is it's getting worse. I feel like it's getting worse. But maybe I don't know. I'm 37. I've been around for a while, but I feel like there's a lot more just criminals out there. But I don't know. I love listening and driving, or I'll listen to YouTube. YouTube's my favorite thing to listen to when I'm at Target or if I'm at the grocery store or something. I'm always listening in on someone's live or listening to a video, but normally I'll listen to lives whenever I do that. So it is getting worse. I thought so too, Catherine. I think it is. I don't have children yet, which I don't know if I'll ever have children, but if I do, I will be so terrified for them. I'd be so terrified to be a parent because oh my gosh, yes, Tater Tot. Where's Tater Tot been? You guys remind me sometimes because our chats are getting a little bigger now. Sometimes I'll forget. And I'm like, wait a minute. But yeah, Tater Tot, I hope Tater Tot's okay. And I also hope that Nicole Marie's okay. And I hope that the other Nicole that used to come in our chat's okay. It's getting worse and I'm way older than you, Tanya Huckleberry Hound said. It does feel like it's getting worse. And to me anyway. I'm just reading the chat. I don't have kids either. I'm almost 40. I'm good. Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with that. Like, because I'm 37, I'll be 38 in October. And so, time's a ticking. But it's like, at the same time, I'm cool. But Vincent is 34. He's not that young. He ain't that young no more. He's 34. So I'm just terrified. I don't know. I'm in a weird spot. Like I get scared, because what if I don't have a baby and then he wants one and then we don't have one and. But there's always adoption. And I know we would make the cutest little baby in the world because you've seen pictures of him, obviously, he would make some pretty good looking babies. Plymouth, England. I love that, Marie. God bless you too, Mudman. Yeah, it is worse and it'll get a lot worse. Yeah. I feel like people are just seeing if they can get away with it. Did you guys see, before we get started with this case, I'll tell you, I saw on the news last night that they are, these people are going and they're like hijacking, not like hijacking, they're stealing cars from like these like really high end car dealerships. They'll leave with like 4 cars, maybe 8 cars, and it'll be like a net worth of like $350,000. And they literally just bust in the windows, drive out with the cars, and it's like 2 seconds flat. And I'm like, whoa. Like, I don't know if criminals could just put their smarts to like some good use, because criminals are smart. They're really smart. So like if they could put that to some good use, then maybe they'd go a lot further. I used to work in retail, so we would always see people stealing in retail. But yeah, Parker Marie said she saw that. Yeah, they were stealing they're going in like swiftly, I think. They were Chargers. Yeah, some of them were like not like super high end, and then they had some like BMWs. I think they took a Maserati and like went through the window with it or something. I think it was a Maserati. I was just like, oh my Lord, that's crazy to me. But yeah, I mean, they're probably just selling them for parts, I would say. That's what I would say. I don't know. Very, very strange. Oh, I have another update for you guys. I don't know if you guys remember the 2 little boys that were kidnapped out of Columbus, Ohio back during Christmas time, Kyer and Kaysen. Their mom was going in, to get a DoorDash order, and she came back. She was coming back to the car they left with the babies. Well, they ended up, she ended up dropping Kyer off at the airport in Dayton, Ohio. That evening, I think it was at like 1 a.m. And then later on, a few days later, we got Kaysen back. I'm sorry. And I went out and was putting out flyers for these little babies. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. Like Christmas was right there. I couldn't even go and do Christmas things because I felt so bad because I was right there in that area. So I was like doing all that stuff. So Kyer ended up passing away. And he was the smaller of the 2. So when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Is that why she dropped that baby off first, in the parking lot? But they were feeding the baby and something happened and the baby just stopped breathing. They tried to do CPR. Can you imagine? I can imagine being these parents, getting your baby back, only to have your baby taken away again. So this happened. He passed away probably about a month and a half ago, I would say. So it was devastating. So what happened was, this is the update. The baby, because they thought like maybe it was like he had choked on something or, and it was just like, what's going on? But the baby, I guess, had SIDS. So it had sudden infant death syndrome. And so the autopsy came back. So I wanted to let everyone kind of know that. I should do a video so that other people will know, but because I've only seen one video on it. I felt so bad. I don't know what she was planning on doing. I don't know if the girl that abducted them, I don't know if she had noticed them in the back seat of the car, if she was just trying to take the car. But when you see there's 2 babies in the back, I don't know. It was just insane. But when did the child pass away? I think that the child passed away like a month and a half ago, I want to say. Something around like that time, because it took, about 6 weeks for the autopsy, 8 weeks. So 6 or 8 weeks. Because the autopsy just came back a couple of days ago. So I couldn't believe that, though. Like you have the twins, you have these babies, they're taken away, and then you get them back. Well, you get one back, then you get the other one back, and you're so full in your heart, and then one just dies, and it's just like, that's just terrible. I think that's just like the worst luck in the world. So I wanted to let you guys know that little update. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this. I did a video on it yesterday, so it'll come out, I think, on Sunday or something. But we're going to talk about it today. But it's going to be over the Idaho 4. So not News Nation, I'm sorry. Law and Crime Network, they did a new interview with a couple of classmates, I think, the neighbor, and then a friend of his, Bryan Kohberger's. So we're going to go over that. And then Ashley Banfield had a couple videos come out last night over her jail sources that, they're squealing on Kohlberger in the jail. But on our last live, I think we were talking about how Bryan gets like access to television, which is like he should, because he's sitting in a room by himself. They were talking about how like he was wanting to watch himself on the news a lot, which I don't blame him. I'd want to watch myself on the news too. I'd want to see what was going on about me. What shocked me though was they said that he kept, this didn't really shock me, but it kind of did, that he keeps his head down all the time, and that even when inmates yell at him, he doesn't even like flinch or anything. To me, I'd be jumping. Someone yelled at me from like another cell or whatever, and I'm walking through the corridor. I don't care if I've got armed guards with me or not. I'm going to be jumping. Like, I guess he's very just, I guess he keeps his head down. So that's what we're going to hear in this video. I guess he keeps his head down. They say he's like quite a big person, like in person. They say that he's probably 200 plus, which I thought that he was pretty decently big, like not like big, but I thought he'd be like lean, but 200 pounds. He's over 6 foot or 6 foot. So that's, I don't know. I think that you would probably, like the normal weight would be like 170 to 200 for that, like that height. So I would say he falls in the normal parameters, but I guess he does look a lot bigger in person, they say. And I guess they say he does what he's told, which why wouldn't he? He's in jail. He's I don't know. Sociopath. Yeah, we went over that in a live, I think it was our last live, and I believe that he is. When we were going through the list, I'm like, oh, check that one. So yeah, they had some other people, like she had, I guess, some more sources come forward. I don't know. But they just talk about, the Latah County Jail. I guess there's only 17 like jailers in this jail, which I was surprised, because when they said the jail was like underneath of the courthouse, it reminded me of where I come from, Chillicothe, Ohio. Their jail is in the basement like that, but it holds a lot more people. It probably holds 1,000 people under there. But this jail is very small. So I guess you could probably hear a lot of stuff. They do talk in the videos too about how I was telling Vincent this, like when you're in jail, you can still communicate. You can communicate through the walls, like through the piping, through the toilets, it's insane what you can do. People that are in jail, they're very crafty people. But so if he wants to talk to someone, he can. I definitely don't think he is though. I think he's talking to the priest, on Wednesdays and Sundays, because he does go to mass. I think he's probably going to talk to the priest just to get out of his cell for an hour a day. That's what else are you going to do? And the priest, everything he says, he has to keep it confidential. So I wonder if no, there would be no way around that, even if you were a priest in a prison. So I guess that's one good thing for him. Also, I don't know. I'll tell you guys actually that in a minute after we go over this Banfield one. And I will drop the link in the chat if anyone wants to come up. I'll do it throughout the live too, if I can remember, because I'm so bad about that. And then you guys can come up if you want. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you don't mind. We're going to go ahead and start watching these videos here. Also, Law and Crime, that's the one I was wanting to tell you guys about. They came out with like a mini documentary. It's like 24 minutes long. It goes, and that's who, comes out, is one of his classmates comes out. The neighbor comes out. And who else? Someone else. Like someone that he met, like I believe he met him at like a party or something. So we'll watch that too. Where do I want to go here?
Bryan Kohberger in jail, has told us that upon setting eyes on Bryan Kohberger for the first time in person, it was a whole other image, because on television, the description was he looked like a toothpick, looked like a skinny toothpick on TV. I know he has struggled with his weight over his life, and he has lost, I think, somewhere close to 100 pounds, his friends say. But the toothpick image on TV, according to this source, is that no, in person, he looks like he's well over 200 pounds and that he's quite imposing. So maybe the image we're getting, and albeit he's often wearing a protective vest, and the suicide garments are like padded, thick moving mats, like quilted moving mats, so that you can't tie them in knots, right, to make a noose or hurt yourself. That might be why he looked a little bigger, but this was a very different image that this source has. He is being held in the maximum security portion of the 2,000 square foot Latah County Jail basement. And there are 4 cells, we are told, for the maximum security inmates who are held in SEG. 3 of those cells are empty. And that guy holds the only one of the maximum security cells. So he is a very lonely guy indeed, with no neighbors specifically nearby. We're told he definitely does not socialize. He doesn't really have the opportunity, if you think about it, right? Because he's in SEG for a reason. And when he goes to Mass on Sundays, he can sit with others, but he's not allowed to engage with.
So yeah, I just wanted to say really quick, she just said it right there. Like, he goes to Mass on Sundays, I believe Wednesdays too, but I don't know if he goes with the other prisoners on Wednesdays, but he goes there on Sundays. So just think, if you were a person, human beings need interaction, even if they're the most introverted person in the world. Like me, I'm introverted, but y'all see me every day. But I think that he goes to the church services so that way he can just not necessarily interact with other people, but just see other people interact. I think he's always been fascinated with the way people do things, just, coming from like his little Reddit post and stuff that he did, his little, surveys and quizzes he was wanting people to do. So, yeah, no. So, and Parker Marie, anything that he says to, so Parker Marie asked, is it confidential with the priest? She said, I know in the military. So you're right. It is all confidential. So whatever he says to the priest will have to keep that to theirself. Which is fine. I mean, he should be able to talk to somebody if he wants, this is the one thing that blew my mind. Turn my camera on. Blew my mind. And I don't know why this blew my mind, but it did. He has not once asked, and I don't know who told this. I don't know, it's Banfield. I don't know where HIPAA is with this one, but I guess he's not asked for any mental evaluations. Like, he hasn't asked for, to be treated for anything, like say, he had prior depression when he went in, and say he was on medication for that, or anxiety or sleep disorder. He hasn't asked to be evaluated by a mental health person. Like, I am sorry, but if I'm in jail, the first call I want to make is to the mental health clinic. If I'm going to be in here rotten, then you're going to have to, put me on whatever you got. Because I would be going nuts. So I just thought that was very, I don't know. I just thought that was very strange that he hasn't. But maybe he's just really good at, he is really good at just looking forward and just with his death stare, just looking forward. But I would be asking, so. Good afternoon, Tanya. It's all good afternoon, Kelly D. And then let me see here. So let me play the rest of this for you guys.
Any others. Certainly he doesn't call out, doesn't yell out to chat with anybody. It's 2,000 square feet, so it's possible somebody could hear something, but that is not happening. Also told that he does what he's told. He makes no trouble. That he is searched when he leaves his cell, and he is searched again when he re-enters his cell, and that is a format that is repeated every single time he's in and out of that segregation isolation cell. The fellow inmates there, we're told, are very curious about Bryan Kohberger. They are also relieved, we are told, that he keeps his head down and that he hasn't made any trouble for anyone. This is straight from the source who has direct knowledge of Bryan Kohberger in the jail. One of the references is that he's very polite, and that, here's a quote, he does not seem like a psychopath. Direct quote, he does not seem like a psychopath. I want to bring in Larry Levine. He's my go-to guy for everything that happens inside any kind of level of jail, because he spent 10 years in multiple federal prisons at several different security levels. And now he's the director of Wall Street Prison Consultants and Coaching. Basically, he trains people how to survive when they have to go into the pokey. Larry, I want to get your reaction to some of this new reporting about Bryan Kohberger.
Let's go to the fact that he doesn't appear to be a psychopath. I flew on Con Air, they call it JPATS, Justice Prisoner Air Transport Service. I was chained up next to a guy that was a serial killer. He killed like 5 people for, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. And this guy seemed as normal as you or I do. So you really can't tell. I mean, he was really intelligent, the things he said, and he admitted to me, yeah, well, I killed them and they deserved it. But he seemed level-headed. And Bryan Kohberger, I mean, he's not stupid, maybe more arrogant than anything. And as far as the weight loss, I know from personal experience and from other people, when you go into custody, you've got some depression, but you're not driving through Taco Bell or going to 7-Eleven or anything. So you don't have access to all those convenience foods. So you will lose weight. And as far as him not having interaction, you know, I was thinking about this after the broadcast last night. He may be going to religious services and he can't interact with the other inmates, but imagine that they're having a religious discussion with the priest, whoever it is, the pastor. One inmate is saying something to the pastor, and then Kohlberger acknowledges what the other inmate says and he talks to the pastor. So it's almost like they're having a conversation, but they're not. And something like that is permitted. And as far as him having no communications from his cell, you could talk. I saw this at several places. They have like a common air vent system for the air conditioning, the heating, whatever it is. You can shout to people through the vents, and there's nothing the cops can do about it. When I was at MDCLA, the Metropolitan Detention Center, it's kind of like the place that Jeff Epstein checked out in New York. People were emptying the water out of the toilet, and they were making like, they would take all the empty toilet bowl wrappers and they'd make them like into a long pole or something, stick them in the toilet, and they would actually shout through the toilet and have conversations with each other. It was nuts. So I don't believe this guy is totally cut off. Who knows what he's really doing, but there's certainly possibilities for him to communicate with others.
So can I ask you about Suicide Watch and how it typically works? I mean, if you take a guy like him who doesn't have a criminal record, is not familiar with the incarceration system, and all of a sudden he's plunked in there and he's more than well aware that he could be facing the death penalty and never, ever see the light of day. Is there a start and an end to Suicide Watch? Is it a moving target? Do they keep an eye on him and change the metric? Like, how does it work? Because originally he was wearing suicide clothing, and I just don't know if he is anymore.
All right. I'm speaking on what I have seen, not what's going on that jail. But generally, they put you into a room. They've got a camera on you 24/7. They've got your light on in your cell 24/7. So it's hard to go to sleep. And in some of these places, they have like a plexiglass window, and they actually have inmates that are watching the detainee. And it's Groundhog Day. Remember, he doesn't have a social experience. He's not in GP, general population. He's not going out to the rec yard, or if he is, he's going out there by himself. So it's not even really solitary confinement. It's more of administrative ADSEG, administrative detention. But it's Groundhog Day because other than meeting maybe with his lawyer, a religious leader or something, one day is like the last day. So he's living a life of boredom. And I'm not sure how often actually is he going to court? Every, what, once a week maybe?
No, there's no court hearing until June, but we are aware that, right, so that's why I'm saying no go-sees, no get out of jail, literally. His lawyer, though, can visit him clearly, but she's quite a drive away. And so it's not going to be on a regular basis.
Wow, I guess it's ADSEG, a lot of times they hold inmates from other counties in AGSED. They want to separate, or they've got inmates from the state prison system that are going to court, and they can't mix them in with the jail population. So a lot of times that's what they're used for. This guy's, I mean, Groundhog Day, no court dates until June. I guess the highlight of his day is taking a shower, or maybe the cops coming and bringing his food or something. If that was me, and I'd tell myself I couldn't do that. I'd check out, early checkout.
Yeah, it would be excruciating, to say the least, which is why I find it surprising he's not talking to many. Larry, thank you for that. I actually have more reporting on this.
Probably a paper mache jumpsuit, not cloth, because they don't want him hanging himself.
Yeah, there's that. And he was wearing those suicide suits before that are heavy quilted, material. So Larry Levine, thank you as always. I'm going to have you back because we've got more exclusive reporting.
They kind of skipped around the part about the suicide vest thing. So what happens in jails is if you go in on a suicide watch, that's what I believe. I believe they have a mental health, like a caseworker. They come in, they talk to you, and they evaluate you before they let you out of the turtle suit. So what happened was, they probably was like, oh, high risk inmate or whatever. Maybe he said something to get put in that turtle suit, but if he hasn't said anything so far that's been incriminating, or like hasn't asked for any mental health, they probably just put him in that because he is a high profile criminal. But they probably just went ahead and took it off of him and had him evaluated by someone someone maybe came into the jail that works in the mental health field, and they evaluated him and they were like, yep, he is good to go. And so they took him out of that and gave him, regular clothes. The next thing, so do you guys remember, this was a while back. This was probably, actually I can tell you, this was June 16th. So we probably played it around June 16th. So it's been a while, but Nancy Grace did an interview with Bryan Kohberger's neighbor, and they were talking about how his neighbor's wife said that she didn't really like him being over there. She thought he was creepy or something like along those lines. But he didn't want to be seen on camera. So she did an interview with him, and she's kind of like holding the door, or maybe he's holding the door open, or she's holding the door open. And it's just them like communicating back and forth. Well, I'm going to play there's a clip of it. It's like 3-minute video. They talk about it, but I'm going to play that. And then I'm going to play the new Law and Crime documentary, because the neighbor is now on camera. So, and I know it's the same neighbor because he says the same things. He talks about what did he say? He said something in particular. I don't know if I wrote it down. He says something and it's like the same exact wording. So I think it's the same guy, but I just wanted to play the first interview for you, the one from like June 16th. That way you'll get your, you'll have a refresher. Hi, Rich. Oh, did I say June 16th? Oh my gosh, Ellie, I meant January. I said June, didn't I? I'm ready for the trial. I'm in June. Thank you, Ellie. She said, how could we have watched it June 16th? So I meant January. Sorry about that. January 16th. Sorry about that. You were in Latah County holding for almost 30 hours when you were 17. What did they do with you in holding? I mean, because holding, usually you get the best spot in the house. You get to watch everybody come in if you're in holding. Okay, I was confused. She said, sorry, no, I didn't even, I said it probably 3 or 4 times too, and I didn't even hear myself say that. So I think he does have TV privileges. Now, I don't know about the internet, and that normally no one gets the internet privileges. You can get I did hear that he was FaceTiming though, which to me, I don't believe you should be able to FaceTime. Maybe you can make a phone call. Yeah, make phone calls, but I don't know about FaceTiming now. That's just crazy. But I wonder if he does talk to his parents. I wonder if he's talked to his parents since this all happened. And I wonder what that conversation's like. I want to be a fly on that wall Because I said this on the last live, but can you imagine the house is getting broken down? Like, it probably sounded like the whole house was coming down. And they're there for their son. I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine. That would just be terrible. So the first one I'm going to play you is only 54 seconds. So it's just a short clip. And then the second one is like 3 minutes. So, but this is when she's doing the interview. And this is when Bryan Kohberger asked the neighbor to be friends with his son. So Bryan's dad was trying to find people to be friends with his son.
When he first moved here, I invited him to a pool party because he was new, had no friends. He actually came out, talked to everybody out there. They were, he was social with everybody. When I met his dad, he was like, I was talking to his dad outside first because his dad was out there. Bryan must have been organizing the apartment. He was like, "I want you to meet my son Bryan. He has some trouble making friends sometimes." And then he came down and he was a little odd, but I'm kind of odd to some people, so I didn't think much of it. And I met him. He was nice to me, social. So when I brought him to the pool party and after we were talking in here, I was like, "It's weird that your dad says you're antisocial," or whatever he was saying, because you're not that way at all.
Okay, so he says there, that his Bryan Kohberger's dad, which that has to be embarrassing. Can you imagine being 27, 28, and your dad's going next door to find you a friend? Man, I kind of felt for him there for a minute, but I don't. But so this guy, he didn't want to be on camera, and I don't know what happened within 2 months to where all of a sudden the guy wants to be on camera. He don't care to be on camera now, but I thought that was kind of entertaining. But no, so he says that he takes him to a pool party and that he is social at the pool party. He even asked him like, "Hey, your dad said you were antisocial. You seem pretty social to me." So maybe he didn't really have a problem being social. Maybe it was just certain people. I don't know. But this is another one this is like a smaller clip of the interview, and then she talks about it. So this is just the interview from January, and it's leading up to the new Law and Crime, because he's on the new Law and Crime interview. And I knew when I did this video, I did a video on this yesterday. So when you guys see this on like Sunday, if you hear me say, "Isn't that the same guy from the Nancy Grace?" Just ignore that. Just ignore that part. What am I doing?
Right here, he said, "Have you heard about these murders?" And I was like, yeah, because it just happened. He's like, "Yeah, it seems like they don't have any leads." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess not." And then he's like, "Yeah, they think it's a crime of passion." I was like, "Yeah, well, I don't know." And then he kind of left it at that, but he did bring that up. Like, it was a normal conversation.
Of Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger telling Nancy Grace what Kohlberger said to him about the killing of 4 college students. This comes as Kaylee Gonzalez's parents revealed she had actually moved out of the house but returned the day before the attack. Nancy Grace joins me now to discuss. Nancy, you've been out front on this. Tell me about that revelation right there. I mean, he's not just sick, but premeditated.
Well, I've got to tell you something. Did you see that video that you just played, El? The way we had to cut it is because the neighbor and many other people in his apartment complex do not want to go down in history as Bryan Kohberger's friend.
Nope.
They don't want their name out there. You were there too. They don't want their name attached in any way. Also, that neighbor also told me that he had been asked by Kohlberger's father when he moved Kohlberger into the, you can't see the face, the apartment, anything there, and we did that to protect him. Kohlberger's father moved him in, like when you take somebody to college and your parents move you in, and actually asked the neighbor, "Hey, will you be his friend?" Because he couldn't make friends. It's like setting up a play date, and at some point the neighbor's wife said, "Don't bring him back. I've got a bad feeling. Do not have him back in this apartment."
Nancy, you've been doing this for
a sixth sense.
You've been doing this for a long time. I gotta interrupt you real quick because the father is still a clue in this. Do you think he's going to be charged as well? Does he know more than he's letting out off to the public?
I think the only thing he may be guilty of is knowing his son may be involved and covering or not doing anything. Yeah. From what I've learned, everyone says this dad is pretty straightforward, nice guy, talkative, friendly, open book. I mean, we all see our own children with blinders on, so I don't know how much he knew but didn't want to know. But you were talking about Kelly. She wasn't even supposed to be there. She had already moved out to take an IT job set up in Austin. Yep. And she came back that weekend to go to a party and show her best friend, Maddie, they've been friends since 6th grade, her new car. Now, that is heartbreaking because she almost missed the entire incident. But I'm also learning that it could be evidentiary in that she may not have been the target unless he was watching her on social and knew she was coming back.
That's interesting, Nancy, because as you know, we both talked with the Gonzalez family, and they talk about those stab wounds. We know that she was in the bed also with Maddie, and there were differences in the severity of those stab wounds. It's a lot to uncover here. Nancy, you got a special coming out to Fox Nation. The special is The Parallels of Evil, the Bundy and Idaho killings.
Okay, sorry about that. I couldn't get it back to the right screen. So I was looking in the chat and you guys were saying that they do give the inmates now, they give them tablets and stuff like that. Now, whoa, that's insane. Is that like since COVID, I guess? So the people aren't coming, into the jail to visit the jailers? I mean, I could see that if that was like a COVID thing. That's just crazy. So who said he was autistic? I don't believe he is. Oh, I didn't see that one in the chat, but yeah, no, I don't believe he is. I believe he's introverted, but I don't believe that and I only think that he's introverted because maybe he doesn't have any friends. I think maybe if he had friends, maybe he would be a little more extroverted, but I think he was just so awkward that people didn't want to be around him. Because you get most people anyway. I don't want to say everybody, because some people probably did want to be around him. I mean, he has the neighbor guy that, said he invited him to a pool party. They went to a pool party together. You'll see in the next video, another guy comes forward and says that I believe he met him at that pool party. He says that he sees Bryan Kohberger a month later out on some trails where they're out hiking, doing some trails or, whatever. Bryan Kohberger sees, I don't know why I keep calling him by his first last name, but Kohlberger sees this guy, I guess, and he's like, oh yeah, hey buddy, I knew you. And he's really extra friendly with him. So that guy said that he thought that was weird. So I guess when Bryan is being rude to people, he's weird, or he's, being out of the norm. But I guess if he's acting overly nice, people think that's out of the norm. So I don't know about that. I don't know about it. I think that he was one of those guys that was damned if he did, damned if he didn't almost. But that's just me. Because the way that this guy, when this guy comes out in this new interview, he's like, yeah, he saw me and he just acted like we were best buddies. And I'm like, well, this guy has a distinctive look too. This guy that came forward, he has long hair and he's beachy looking. And I'm just like, you look like somebody, if I saw you, you look like you would be a super nice guy and I'd want to talk to you, actually. So I didn't see what the problem was there, but let me see the chat. You guys are chatting it up. Okay, if you guys didn't mind, if you're just now joining us, hello, hi, and welcome. We decided to do an afternoon live today and it's working out great. I love this. Maybe we'll do more of these. If you're new to the channel and you appreciate today's case coverage, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the like button. It does really help the channel grow. So if you guys could hit the like, I would love that forever. Also, thank you for the mods for being here today. I appreciate you guys being here. Let me drop, I will drop the channel membership link here in a moment as well, if you would like to become a member. So I'll go ahead and move it over to the next video. I just wanted to show you those older, those two Nancy Grace interviews, because this guy comes back out, but he's on camera this time. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It came out yesterday. And it is, like I said, it's about Bryan Kohberger and his past, kind of prior to him going to Washington State. And then it has his neighbor when he lived over in Washington State. And then it has another guy that met him at a pool party. So it has some people that knew him that can give a little background on him. So we'll see. And thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
It's a story that's gripped the nation. 4 college students brutally stabbed to death in their off-campus Idaho home. For weeks, no suspects, no arrests, and no murder weapon. Until...
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohlberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee.
On December 30th, 2022, officials announced the arrest of suspect Bryan Kohberger, the man they say is responsible for the murders of University of Idaho students Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. Weeks before, on November 13th, their bodies were found stabbed to death on the upper 2 floors of their off-campus home.
I'm sure there's statistics out there of, many people pass by a murderer, many people know a murderer. Well, I don't. It's very concerning, and it's very eerie and creepy as well.
It's crazy because literally days after these murders happened, he brought it up when I saw him in the hallway.
To get inside the mind of accused killer Bryan Kohberger, Law and Crime Network began a weeks-long investigation into his past, teaming up with local Pennsylvania news outlet LehighValleyLive.com to walk in the footsteps of the highly educated murder suspect before he moved across the country to Washington.
It's almost too good to be true, unless this guy was miraculously set up, which is like a 1 in a billion chance. No one cares enough about Bryan Kohberger to set him up.
Our investigation began thousands of miles from the Moscow, Idaho crime scene in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, where Kohberger grew up.
That's not something that you really expect for a national story to come back to our area.
The Kohlberger family home in Albrightsville, safely guarded behind the gates of the Indian Mountain Lake development, sits only about 10 minutes away from Pleasant Valley High School, where Kohlberger graduated in 2013. But it was about an hour south in Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley, where he spent the bulk of his 20s.
DeSales is kind of its own sort of campus outside of Bethlehem in a more rural area, surrounded by a lot of cornfields and small neighborhoods.
Down a winding tree-lined road on the outskirts of the valley is DeSales University, a private Catholic school with less than 5,000 total students.
It's a small school. It's not like it's a Penn State or a Pitt or a Temple. It's a very small school in a cornfield. So if you go there, you know most of the people within your study, and pretty much everyone that goes to the school, and he was not known.
It's here at DeSales University where Kohberger really got his feet wet in the study of criminology. He received both his undergraduate and graduate degrees here, and DeSales officials tell me he studied in this very building.
Inside the walls of Dueling Hall, then undergraduate Josh Ferraro met psychology major Bryan Kohberger.
At that time, I would have never said, oh yeah, that guy would do something like this. He may have been a little odd or a little off, but other than that, you'd never expect someone to be allegedly part of a quadruple homicide, ever.
Ferraro, who graduated from DeSales with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, is a self-proclaimed true crime junkie.
I was following it day one because who hears about 4 college students that are unfortunately murdered, and how do you not want to keep up with that? So I got on TikTok, YouTube, Google, and I vigorously kept up with this case.
It came as a surprise then when Ferraro's one-time classmate was charged in the murders.
And that's why it's shocking to me, because this guy was such a normal dude, average Joe type person. You would never, you don't know what's under people's skin. God forbid if he didn't do it, great, but all the signs point to that he did.
After news broke of Kohberger's arrest, Ferraro recorded his reaction and posted it on social media.
I went to college with Bryan Kohberger. I've been looking at his picture all day. I've been saying the name all day in my head, and I was like, I know this guy. I know this guy. And then he went to DeSales University. I'm like, I know I had a class with him. I know it. I know it. The name sounds so familiar.
Back in 2018, Ferraro teamed up with Kohlberger for a project on Daphnia, or water fleas. He says they worked together for an entire semester.
He was new, and I said, hey, buddy, do you want to be my lab partner? And that's pretty much what was left, so I took him. And it ended up working out very well.
As a commuter student, Kohlberger came and went from campus during his undergraduate psychology studies. Ferraro says he kept to himself and didn't show any outward signs of something more menacing.
It's not always the creepy guy with glasses and oily hair and creeping around the corner. It's sometimes just that average Joe that on the inside you have no idea what he looks like, but on the outside he may just seem like a normal person, much like Bryan Kohberger did.
Ferraro instead theorizes Kohlberger's alleged drive to kill stems from something on the inside.
I really don't think that there's too many outward telltale signs of someone committing a crime. I feel like it's all mostly internal, which goes back to the blank slate theory and basically how you're raised, what you're exposed to as a child, what your genetics are. That would be predisposition. So like some things you're predisposed to do in life, that's just unfortunate. Your genetics dictate you will be one way. However, the blank slate theory says that dependent on your situation and who you grew up with, what kind of friends you have, how many friends you have, do you have a lover, all these things in combination kind of make you who you are. So it's a combination of both, in my opinion. I'm not a professional. You got to ask Catherine Ramsland.
As a graduate student at DeSales, Kohlberger majored in criminal justice. That means both he and Ferraro studied under legendary forensic psychologist Dr. Catherine Ramsland. We reached out to Ramsland for this story and were told via email, quote, I'm making no statements about Bryan Kohberger and will not be interviewed for any stories that feature him. But months before Kohlberger's arrest, Ramsland appeared on Law and Crime Network's podcast, Cocktails and Cocktails.
Have I come face to face with psychopaths? Absolutely. The coldness, the lack of remorse, definitely. So some people call that evil, but we are finding that it might very well be a brain disorder.
In the interview given just 7 months before the University of Idaho murders, Ramsland explained the workings of a psychopath's mind.
The brains of what we call primary psychopaths, who seem to be born with this brain disconnect, are definitely different. And it allows them to be better predators if that's what they choose to be. Not all psychopaths are criminals, not all psychopaths are murderers, but if they choose that, it allows them to be very effective at it because they really don't have any remorse over what they're doing, and they really can be very calculated. They tend to be very reward driven.
But according to forensic psychologist Dr. John Delatorre, we can't yet label Kohlberger as a psychopath or even a serial killer.
Even if he was a serial, even if he does have that, what actually happened was that he was a mass killer, right? That because there was 3+, sometimes it's 4+, depending on what law enforcement agency that you ask, whoever did this should actually be considered a mass killer. But that doesn't take away from the possibility that they are also a serial killer.
We can't even confirm Ferraro's blank slate theory.
The science has suggested that when we're born, we actually do have coding, right? We do have ways in which we are going to be perceiving the world around us. Now, of course, external influences change who we are and how we're going to respond to those things. But we're not necessarily a blank slate.
But according to Ramsland, a motive may be hard to pin down.
So they have a variety of motives, but their personalities tend to have that rigidity and that inability to go with life's hard knocks and to believe that they're entitled to more and that they need to punish people for them not getting what they think they deserve.
Ferraro has his own theory about a motive.
I don't see this as this grandiose thing where he was trying to get away with it. I think he had this compulsion, this need, this necessity to do it, and he's probably always wanted to do it and finally said, F it, I'm gonna do it.
At least part of Ferraro's theory seems to be accurate. Kohlberger had no run-ins with the law while in the Lehigh Valley.
We had no indication he was here at all. We had no indication he had any interaction with law enforcement at all.
After news broke of his arrest, Northampton County District Attorney Terry Houck says his team reviewed area cold cases for a possible link to Kohlberger.
When you have somebody that might have serial attached to their name, you just want to make a check to see if there's any connection, since he had contact with the county, and there was none here in Northampton County.
Similar investigations were also conducted in neighboring Lehigh County. We reached out to District Attorney Jim Martin, who declined an interview. But while sitting down with Houck, we learned news of Kohlberger's arrest came as a shock for the community.
Obviously, it's the reaction that everybody has. It's us, it's like a close to home thing, because then you're watching and people are posting Facebook pictures of him on campus, on some campus close by or something like that.
One such campus is Northampton Community College, where Kohlberger made the dean's list and later received an Associate of Arts and Psychology degree in 2018, before his time at DeSales.
Northampton County Community College is a beautiful school, and it's a lot of, it's a well-respected academic institution, and yeah, I would call it a pillar in the community. There's a lot of kids that go there.
Kohlberger himself commuted about 50 miles from Albrightsville to the college's Bethlehem campus while studying for his degree. Law and Crime Network reached out to NCC for this story to learn more about Kohlberger's time at the school. The senior director of marketing and communications replied in part, quote, "This isn't something we'd like to pursue at the moment, and we'll be in touch should anything change." But in an area filled with college-age students, it's possible Kohlberger flew under the radar altogether.
He would.
I just have a quick question. I was wondering if Dr. Ramslin is still teaching at the school. So if you guys know that, let me know in the chat. I know she's not doing any interviews, but I'm wondering if she's still even teaching or if they've pulled her off of teaching. After they're done with the first interview with the classmate, then I'll pause it again. We'll talk about it.
Have been indistinguishable from any of the other college students, young adults, recent college graduates, or graduate students going around the Lehigh Valley. Even if he had a run-in in a bar, that would not have been anything unusual or even really noteworthy. Not until hindsight.
According to multiple reports, Kohlberger frequented the brewery Seven Sirens while he attended college in the area. According to the interviews, Kohlberger made multiple women uncomfortable, so much so that a record of his interactions was kept, noting that he made staff concerned about his strange behavior. We reached out to the Seven Sirens owner multiple times and never received a response. But Delatorre says labeling Kohlberger as a killer because of these alleged interactions may be a rush to judgment.
They may be engaging in that fundamental attribution error where they're linking all of these things to describe who he is as a person, forgetting that there are many different external influences, that it's certainly possible that all of this stuff, that he was being reactionary. And I think that that's also part of, if he did do this, that reactionary aspect is kind of maybe what compelled him to engage in this particular act.
But could Kohlberger's connection to criminal justice have played a role in the murders?
The course that I took that stands out is psychological sleuthing, where you basically enter the mind of a killer. She would give you sheets, and basically the sheets would denote and detail a crime. However, you wouldn't know who did what per se or where this was, but you'd have to, it was a group thing, so you'd get partnered up or in groups, and you would go through these activities and basically come up with a theory or a thesis and then challenge it to Dr. Ramslin.
DeSales boasts a robust criminal justice program, promoting hands-on training and courses taught by renowned professors.
They have an entire house, they call it the crime scene house, that is used for simulations for crime scene investigation or collecting evidence or crime scene photography or responding to other emergencies.
But according to court documents, Kohlberger's criminal justice studies were important enough for detectives to investigate, recovering a criminal psychology book and DeSales University documents from his parents' home when a search warrant was executed.
The Master of Arts in Criminal Justice is awarded to Carlina Kemery. Jenna Cook. Bryan Kohberger.
We reached out to Kohlberger's entire criminal justice graduating class for this story, but his classmates either didn't reply or denied our request for an interview. One classmate told us via text that DeSales University, quote, sent a general communication that suggested everything go through the university as to be respectful of the ongoing situation. The Associate Vice President of Marketing and Communications told us via phone the school did not discourage students to speak with the media, but that she was available to assist in media requests on a case-by-case basis. The school's statement via email recapped Kohlberger's majors, the years he completed each program, and confirmed he was always a commuter student.
DeSales is just such a close-knit and heartfelt community. Like I said, everybody knows each other, and the fact that really no one knows about this guy, he went in and out.
It's a common theme in Kohlberger's past, leaving behind little clues about his isolated personality. Multiple people who knew Kohlberger tell us he was strange but hardly memorable.
He was kind of awkward, but I feel like you can't just write someone off as being crazy just because they're a little awkward, you know?
Just months after his graduation from DeSales, Kohlberger moved across the country to Washington to begin his PhD studies in criminal justice at Washington State University.
It's crazy because literally days after these murders happened, he brought it up when I saw him in the hallway.
Just across the hall from Kohlberger's Pullman, Washington apartment lives Christian Martinez. He says Kohlberger's dad approached him early on.
The dad was wanting to introduce me to Bryan. And he said something, I don't remember the exact word he used to describe him, but it was something that was he has a hard time making friends, or he's kind of shy, or something like that.
Martinez tells us Kohlberger kept up with the murders and even brought them up as a topic of conversation.
Sorry, this was the guy that I was telling you guys about. He's the same guy from the Nancy Grace video. This is going to be the guy that is talking now. So he decided, I guess, come forward and be on camera this time. So, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Is it Socrates Aguirre? I'm going to be messing up everybody's name. Everyone's going to have to come by initials. I'm so bad about names. But thank you so much for becoming a member. Let me go ahead and start, going back to this. But I was trying to find a picture of the front at night with all the cars in the front, because then you could not be seen, I feel like. But the back side of the house is really kind of lit up at night because they had those stream lights that kind of lit up the back door a little bit more.
He was like, oh, did you hear about these murders that happened? And it was so short after they actually happened, there was barely any news articles out. So there wasn't much that I could have read. So I was like, yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah, of course I've heard about him. And he was like, yeah, it seems like they don't have any leads. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, there's not much about it, there's nothing, I have no details really to say. But yeah, and then he's like, yeah, it seems like they think it was a crime of passion. Those were the two things he said, was that they had no leads and they think it was a crime of passion.
On top of that, Kohlberger may have had a fascination with death or killing.
One thing that stuck out was it was kind of on the subject of what it would take to take someone's life. It was kind of he was trying to see my perspective on I guess taking someone's life.
After the pair were first introduced last summer, Martinez invited Kohlberger to a pool party, and they saw each other occasionally after that. At that same party, Zach Cartwright met Kohlberger for the first time.
He did seem pretty kind of just socially awkward and kind of hard to carry a conversation with, if I remember correctly. But besides that, he mainly just stood to the side and was really observant, and so much so that based on that one small interaction, he knew exactly who I was maybe a month or so later when I saw him on that hike.
This guy says, that he ends up seeing him on a hike a couple months later, and he finds that the interaction was weird, which I don't think that would probably be weird. I think that guy looks like a guy that you would notice from a party. He looks like he's the fun guy, not Bryan Kohberger here, but the guy with the long hair. Let me just kind of back it up just so you can, this dude. I mean, he looks like he's probably the life of the party. So if I were to see him out, I probably would be nice to him too, but I mean, I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Also, I don't know if I think they talked about this already. My mind must have went like to La La Land there for a second, but I will say that Bryan Kohberger's schooling was a lot better than my schooling for criminal justice. We didn't have a whole mock set up. Like but I guess I did homeschooling. So it was a lot of like, I guess it was on my own, but I don't know. Like they had like a mock setup. He had the, professor, he was saying something about they would get clues and they would have to guess like who did what, like kind of like the game Clue in a way. We never really had that at my school, so apparently he got a little bit more studying done than me. If you guys are just now joining us, we are watching the Law and Crime episode. This is like a documentary that just came out yesterday. Welcome to the channel. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button, it does send it out to the algorithm, helps my channel grow. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. We'd love to have you. Also, I'm going to put a banner on I'm going to change the banner really quick. If you guys wouldn't mind, follow me over on Twitter at @Titanium_built and on TikTok. At TitaniumBuilt. I've been trying to do a really good job at posting stuff over there for you guys, like updates and stuff. So I'll go ahead and get back to this now.
He knew exactly who I was maybe a month or so later when I saw him on that hike.
When they crossed paths again, Cartwright says it was strange how quickly Kohberger recognized him.
It was really weird how he approached me and the people that I was with, because he acted kind of like we were best friends, or it was like a reunion or something, and he was really excited to see us, and I had no idea really who he was right at that second.
Those two small interactions proved important enough for Cartwright to be interviewed by the FBI after Kohberger's arrest.
I did speak to the FBI at one point. I do believe that they spoke to a lot of people that were at that party. It may be because that was one of his very first times, if not his first time in Moscow.
Martinez and his wife were also interviewed by the FBI. He tells us his wife always felt something was off with the now suspected murderer.
She didn't have a good feeling about him, because every time I would tell her I'm going to invite Bryan, because he didn't have any friends. I was trying to bring him out and maybe meet people he can, relate to. But she was always like, no, please don't. There was just something about him that she didn't like.
In recalling their conversations after Kohberger's arrest, some key points stick out.
I guess looking back, it's kind of funny because he was talking about he was talking about genealogy, because I was talking about the 23andMe because my sister had just did all that. And then he brought up something similar in his studies that had to do with being able to catch criminals because of their relatives' DNA, which is, I guess, how he got caught up in this mix.
The probable cause affidavit released after Kohberger's arrest revealed a knife sheath was left behind at the crime scene, containing a single source of male DNA. When compared with DNA recovered from the trash at Kohberger's parents' home, it proved to be a near perfect match. When the FBI interviewed Martinez, they asked whether he had ever seen Kohberger with a similar weapon.
They just asked about if he had a knife on him or anything like that. If I ever noticed him with a knife. I didn't. He never had anything on him like that.
When Thanksgiving approached less than 2 weeks after the murders, Moscow police announced their investigation would continue through the holiday.
I want to assure you, first off, that the loss of Xana, Kaylee, Madison, and Ethan remains the highest priority for the Moscow Police Department. We will continue putting all of our resources into investigating and solving these murders. Investigators are prepared to work through the Thanksgiving holiday to continue their efforts.
As local, state, and federal police continued on in the early stages of the investigation, Kohberger texted Martinez on Thanksgiving, reading, quote, "Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family."
It kind of made me feel bad because me and my wife were talking and how I was one of the people that he made friends with. And then it kind of made me feel bad, I don't know. What if it would have made a difference that I had been able to meet up with him the times that I could have? Maybe that would have changed anything if it would have, but I don't know.
I just wanted to point it out that this guy seemed like the neighbor. He seems really nice. He apologizes almost what if I could have hung out with him more? What if I would have done this? What if I could have done that? I don't know if this guy is listening, but sir, there was nothing that you could have done. I mean, if it was Bryan Kohberger that did this, I mean, he was passing their house 12 different times prior to the night of the homicides happening. So I don't believe that there was anything that you could have done to change that. I'm also wondering why he went there 12 times. I've been wondering that today. Like, why did he drive 12 different times? Was that each time he was going to go and commit the crime? Like, maybe he wasn't just stalking the place. Maybe he was going to go commit the homicides those nights, but there was something happening that stopped him from committing the crimes that night. Now, with I think there was 5 or 6 vehicles in the parking lot that night. I don't know why that didn't deter him, but it didn't that evening.
According to court documents, investigators believe the murders happened just 11 days before Kohlberger sent Martinez that Thanksgiving text between 4 and 4:25 a.m. A white suspect vehicle was seen near the home at that time and multiple times after. Investigators later determined it was a 2011 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. Weeks after the murders, Moscow police put out photos of an Elantra, saying it was a vehicle of interest. The following week, Kohlberger was behind the wheel of his white Hyundai Elantra when he was pulled over by police.
So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh. You're going to be going to Pennsylvania. Oh, okay.
Kohlberger was actually stopped twice in Indiana, about 10 minutes apart, as he drove cross-country with his father from Washington to Pennsylvania for his winter break. Both times, he was stopped for following another vehicle too closely. When the Pennsylvania search warrant was executed at Kohlberger's parents' home, investigators recovered multiple items from the vehicle, including hiking boots, a shovel, goggles, and a wrench. Court documents also show one of the surviving roommates saw the suspect the night of the murders, noting he was 5'10" or taller with bushy eyebrows. Martinez agrees he had a memorable look.
Like, every time I would talk to him, my wife describes it as a death stare. And it kind of is you make eye contact with people, but you're not constantly just staring at him. He would be constantly staring at me, he's just trying to analyze me. But that was a feeling I would get.
After Kohlberger's arrest in Pennsylvania, he appeared in Monroe County Court on January 3rd. Cameras weren't allowed inside the hearing, but Law and Crime Network was in the courtroom where he waived his right to extradition. He was later flown to Idaho and charged with all 4 murders.
It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th of 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did unlawfully enter a residence located at 1122 King Road, Moscow, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder.
Right now, Kohlberger is being held in Latah County Jail in Idaho without bail. As we await his next court appearance in June, questions about his inner psyche remain.
Still so much to learn about who Bryan Kohberger is, not just as the person alleged to have committed this crime, but just who he is and how he walked through his life. There's still so much to learn that anybody who says that they know who he was, they actually don't, because my contention is that I don't think he even knew who he was.
Kohlberger is due back in court in June for a preliminary hearing that's expected to last multiple days. Law and Crime Network will be in Idaho for the hearing, where both sides are expected to call witnesses and present evidence. For the latest developments in the University of Idaho murders, make sure to follow Law and Crime Network's YouTube page. Reporting for Law and Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Let me actually find something for you guys really quick. Let me see. Actually, I could play this well, let me see really quick. Because I think something new came out. Of course, I can't go back on anything. I think something came out about the house, about the house being demolished. Let me see if I can find it for you guys real quick. If not, I'll look for it and I'll post it for you guys. But I thought it was on Law and Crime. Oh, well, I guess they have something else up already. So I'll show you that. This might be it. Let me see.
New reports allege
No. It was just talking about the demolishing of the house. And they don't have a date on it yet. But I wanted to let you guys know. I forget exactly what I said, but they don't have a date on it. They're not sure what they're going to put there. I guess the students were asking maybe for a parking lot because the parking lot that is up that hill is extremely hard to get to in the wintertime. So maybe they could do something like that or like a walking path of some sort. But let me, they just actually put something else out. So I guess we can play this and watch it really quick. It just came out 2 hours ago. So let me, oops. So yeah, I'll play this for you. And if it's the same thing that we just heard, then, I'll, take it down. But okay, so let me see here. Okay. I was just making sure I was on the right page. Sorry, guys.
Go. Bryan Kohberger is one of the most sophisticated I've seen.
And this before, I could tell you what it's about, I guess, a little bit, huh? It just said that it says Bryan Kohberger's preliminary hearing, what to expect.
As far as alleged murderers
sorry. And that's all it really says, so we'll watch it.
Bryan Kohberger is one of the most sophisticated I've seen in my more than 20 years of practice.
Since accused killer Bryan Kohberger's arrest late last year, many questions remain in the University of Idaho quadruple murder case. But experts now tell us new bombshell information could be revealed at Kohberger's preliminary hearing.
I think we will learn a lot at the preliminary hearing because there's different types of homicide. Here we're talking about first-degree murder. That generally is premeditated murder. Typical examples sort of lying in wait. And of course, that is what the prosecution is charging here, and that's why Bryan Kohberger is not even eligible for bail under Idaho laws.
On November 13th, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were found stabbed to death in their off-campus home. After weeks of a nationwide manhunt, suspected killer Bryan Kohberger was arrested just before the new year.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohlberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee.
At the time of his arrest, Kohlberger was at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He was later extradited to Idaho, where he's been in jail for the last 3 months. He appeared in Latah County Court in early January, where he was formally charged with all 4 murders.
It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th of 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did unlawfully enter a residence located at 1122 King Road, Moscow, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder.
Since Kohlberger's January court appearances, we haven't heard much about the accused killer, but we can expect to learn a lot more at his preliminary hearing this summer.
Usually preliminary hearings are done within a day or a few hours, but obviously this is not an ordinary case. This is a quadruple murder, and a lot of the evidence hasn't been revealed because of the gag order and because we're dealing with search warrants in 3 states.
A gag order was issued in Kohberger's case early on, meaning a lot of information about the case is still under lock and seal. Former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani tells Long Crime Network it's one of the most intense gag orders he's ever seen.
This is one of the broadest gag orders I've ever seen. It covers the attorneys, parties, and the victims. You don't typically see that. I think the magistrate judge in this case wanted to be overly cautious.
But there is likely a reason behind the strict order.
The Supreme Court has generally upheld gag orders when they're necessary to protect the rights of a criminal defendant. And we know that in death penalty cases, the defense actually has a better chance of getting a death sentence overturned on appeal than they do with actually getting a not guilty verdict or a life sentence when it comes to a jury, especially in a case like this.
More than 30 news organizations have petitioned the court to have that gag order lifted. Kohlberger's defense team is pushing back, calling the media's coverage of the case, quote, twisted in court documents filed with the Idaho Supreme Court. But according to Romani, even with a gag order still in place, we can expect new details to come out at the preliminary hearing.
I expect to see sort of 4 broad categories of information. Obviously, the scene of the murders, the home in Idaho. We're going to hear a lot of evidence what was found there. Some of that's already come out. Obviously, Bryan Kohberger's car, that white Hyundai Elantra, we know that's important because that was law enforcement's key piece of evidence. That's what they asked the public to help them out with.
Before a suspect was named in the case, the Moscow Police Department announced they were searching for a white Hyundai Elantra, naming it a vehicle of interest.
We are confident that the occupant or occupants of that vehicle have information that's critical to this investigation.
When investigators executed a search warrant at Kohlberger's parents' home, they recovered multiple items from his white Hyundai Elantra, including goggles, hiking boots, a shovel, and a wrench.
I would really like to see, and this is very sad to say, but is any of the victims' blood in that white Hyundai Elantra in Kohlberger's apartment at his parents' home? Something more to connect him to the scene of the crime, because of course we know that the self-site evidence really stopped, right? Either he put his phone in airplane mode, or he turned it off, or he left it somewhere. Really, the only evidence that really kind of puts him at the scene of the crime that we've heard so far is just that single source DNA in the knife sheath. And if you want to put someone to death for the state of Idaho, you really want some more evidence than that.
Because of the nature of Kohlberger's charges, he could face the death penalty if convicted. Law and Crime Network host and public defender Brian Buckmeyer says the prosecution will likely use the preliminary hearing to decide how to move forward.
They're probably looking to see what the court of public opinion thinks after the preliminary hearing. Because even though it's not Florida, they looked at the Parkland shooter and that person didn't get the death penalty. And if you can kill 17 people and injure 17 more and still have life in prison, then the argument for all defense attorneys would be, why shouldn't Bryan Kohberger also get life in prison? But I think after we hear about the heinousness of this crime, the prosecution will kind of get a temperature reading on the court of public opinion. And then based on when they have to make that announcement, because you often have to do that before trial, that's when we may or may not hear if they're seeking the death penalty.
Romani says Idaho's law is unique in that both the defendant's plea and the prosecution's decision to pursue the death penalty comes after a preliminary hearing.
Well, Idaho is unique in that there's no arraignment until after the preliminary hearing. So most states, and in the federal system as well, once a defendant is arrested, he or she's brought into court and they plead guilty or not guilty. Well, Idaho, that plea doesn't happen until after the preliminary hearing. But really, I think what the prosecution is preparing for is after the preliminary hearing. So assuming the magistrate judge finds probable cause, then Bryan Kohberger will be transferred from magistrate court to district court. And that's where a senior judge will actually oversee the jury trial. Then Bryan Kohberger will plead. I assume he's going to plead not guilty. And the prosecution has 60 days to give notice of whether they're going to seek the death penalty.
After Kohlberger's arrest, a probable cause affidavit was unsealed, revealing that a single source of male DNA was discovered on a knife sheath left behind at the crime scene. When compared with DNA from the trash recovered at Kohlberger's parents' home, there was a near perfect match. But should the prosecution pursue the death penalty, Romani says they would need to present more DNA evidence than we've seen so far.
That's probably not enough to put someone to death, because the defense is going to be able to argue that this DNA was transferred, and there's probably a lot more DNA in this house. It's reportedly a party house. People are coming and going. You really want something more than just one source of DNA if you're going to convince 12 out of 12 jurors, not only return a guilty verdict, to return a death sentence. So hopefully for the state and for these victims, there's a lot more evidence than what's been publicly reported so far.
And based on past high-profile cases in Idaho, Romani believes prosecutors will ultimately seek the death penalty.
I fully expect this to be a death penalty case for a few reasons. First, we know that public defender Ann Taylor is one of about a dozen or so death penalty qualified lawyers in the state of Idaho that can handle a death penalty trial as a first chair. In addition, the defense has requested a second death penalty qualified lawyer. And of course, we know how Idaho prosecutors have handled other cases. The probably most famous one that's happening right now is the doomsday cult couple, Chad and Lori Daybell, who allegedly killed their kids and buried them in the backyard. Prosecutors are seeking a death penalty in that case, and I expect them to be consistent and seek the death penalty for Bryan Kohberger.
But before all that, we can expect a days-long preliminary hearing.
A preliminary hearing is like what we call a mini trial. It's a lower standard of proof, so they're not proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And they're going to put on as much evidence as they need to kind of meet that threshold of saying, Judge, we have enough here, let's go to trial. I expect a 4-day, maybe a full work week's worth of a preliminary hearing, because yes, you have 4 murders. Yes, you have all of this circumstantial evidence, all of this forensics that not just places Kohlberger inside the apartment, but how they actually tracked him down. Because they don't just have to prove that the murders occurred, they have to prove that Bryan Kohberger is the one that did it. So I would buckle up for a very long and probably technical preliminary hearing.
In the multiple days of the hearing, Buckmeyer believes we're bound to learn more about the murders.
In the preliminary hearing, I would bet 100% we're going to hear new facts that we have not heard from these search warrants, because one, the prosecution is still doing an investigation. There may be more information that they found out since his arrest that they're not going to present, but the prosecution will not let, quote unquote, the cat out of the bag completely. They're not going to show all of their cards because then the defense has a longer amount of time to prepare. So they're going to show just enough to show the judge, this can go to trial, a jury needs to decide this, but I think just enough is going to be a lot more than we've heard so far.
Romani agrees, saying the prosecution won't give the defense a roadmap of their case. Rather, they will call witnesses strategically. He says most of the witnesses will likely be law enforcement involved in the investigation, but others could be called to the stand as well.
Potentially, and this is where the strategy comes into play, the prosecution may want to present some lay witnesses, civilians. Now, to do that, you really want to make sure that they don't testify in a way that might be inconsistent at trial, right? So it's testimony under oath. So if you have concerns about a witness that may testify differently, you might not want to put them on the stand if you're the prosecution. However, if you're concerned that a witness might be unavailable or you want to lock in their testimony, that might be a reason to have that witness testify at the preliminary hearing.
While the defense could call witnesses, Romani says that isn't likely.
They're just trying to get that free evidence that, obviously they have the discovery, they have the reports, they have the witness statements, they have the forensics, but they really want to see those witnesses testify on the stand, see what they're going to say, and that'll allow them to prepare their cross-examination and to poke holes in that testimony at the jury trial.
Instead, Romani expects the preliminary hearing to be prosecution heavy. He believes we could soon learn what prompted Kohlberger to allegedly kill.
Or what we're going to hear a lot about during the preliminary hearing. And of course, evidence of the potential motive. There's been a lot of speculation that this was related to stalking of one or more of the victims and, what Bryan Kohberger did to message them on social media or contact them or go to their business where they work. I think that is generally what we're going to see come out at the prelim.
After the hearing, there's no definite timeline for a trial.
If the defense takes the position that they did in January, that they need more time, and they tell the court, Your Honor, we are not ready to present a defense in this case, the defendant's already in custody. If the judge were to force a trial before the defense is ready, that creates an issue on appeal.
And if and when a trial does begin, Romani expects a lengthy jury selection.
In the modern age with law and crime and social media, everyone in the world has heard about Bryan Kohberger. It's not like if you go to another part of Idaho, you're going to have jurors that haven't heard about this case. So I think those change of venue motions are a lot less important now than they might have been decades ago, with really kind of changes in technology and trials being broadcast live.
Whether it's learning about new DNA evidence, a victim's potential stalker, or even Kohlberger's past, Romani believes the accused killer's strategic actions will take center stage in his coming court appearances.
One important thing to note is how careful Bryan Kohberger is. Here's someone who reportedly wears gloves when he goes to the grocery store. Obviously, he's very knowledgeable about our criminal justice system. He's a PhD student. Maybe he's watching law and crime. But typically in a murder scene like this, you're going to expect a lot more forensic evidence to be there. We talked about the cell site evidence. Most murderers don't have the knowledge and wherewithal to turn off their cell phone to make sure it doesn't track them. So as far as alleged murderers go, Bryan Kohberger is one of the most sophisticated I've seen in my more than 20 years of practice.
Kohberger's preliminary hearing is set for June 26th and is expected to last at least 5 days. Law and Crime Network will be in Idaho for the hearing to bring you the latest.
Okay, so that one was brand new. I was trying to read your guys' chat really quick. Oh, look, Ashley, she's late, but she's here. I was going back up a little bit. I was just trying to read your stuff. Sorry. Danny, if you don't have anything good to say about a person, then come sit next to me. I feel like that should be my motto. But no, I did hear that from the horse's mouth, as they would say, about the camping out in front of the courthouse. There was paperwork involved. I saw that she had printed up with her name on it. And I can't say verbatim what she said, but this is the gist. I got a tent. I'm going to camp out in front of the courthouse. I bought a generator. I'm going to cook on my grill. Enan Harsh is going to be there with me. And he's going to be flipping burgers. I am going to be there every day taking notes inside of the courthouse because they think that they're going to get a spot inside the courthouse. If you're not the news, if you're not Brian Enton himself, you are not getting in that courthouse. You know Brian Enton, he'll get in that courthouse. Even if they say no one's allowed in the courtroom, Brian Enton, somehow he'll sneak in there. Like a cardboard cutout, he'll be just standing in there. Because I remember when, I think it was, wasn't it, it was either when they were bringing Brian over to Latah County or it was with Alec Murdoch, but he was there like every day. Like first one in. No, but I do think that the part about the Enan Harsh part I think that part was a joke, but I don't think the rest of it was a joke at all, Lala. I think that was her being serious. And if you want, I could bring it up right now. But no, that was definitely the part about Enan Harsh. I'm sure that was like, just to be funny because the chat wasn't really appreciating it, I don't think. But I was just taking a shower and I thought I would listen in because I'm like, oh, okay, I'll listen in to another live. And I was like, okay. My phone almost got ruined because I had to turn off the live after I heard that. So I had water all over my phone. Good thing it's one of those phones you could put in the pool. Like you can submerge it in like 8 feet or whatever of water. Because I was just like jumping, whenever you're like something, you have to change it off your phone. If it's either a song or if it's just something you don't want to hear. Like I was just like, yep, got to get this off of there. So basically what I said to Vincent after this, when he came home, is Vincent, I need a plane ticket to go see your mom on June 26th. Actually, June 20th. Let's make it June 20th. Well, actually, no, I'll go visit TF. He's out there. Shoot, never mind. So what was, okay, so Lala, maybe I did hear wrong. So she was making light of the situation. Okay, so what was the paperwork she had drawn up with her name on it that said that she was going to send in to Idaho so she could sit there in the parking lot? What was that about then? She just made up that paperwork for fun too? Because I didn't hear her laughing. And she said, you guys think I'm playing. Those were her words. She said, you all think I'm playing. And I was like, oh, no, I don't think you're playing, girl. And Vincent made a valid point. He's the best. He said, where's she going to take a shower? I said, she's not. Because, you're just not. If you're camping, you camping, you don't take showers in the camping world. So I guess it's going to be like van life without the van and the fun. Does anyone know if there's going to be cameras in the courthouse? I need to get me a Cricut. I keep thinking about them. Just so I can make myself stuff. A lottery system to allow only so many people in the courtroom. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I can't wait till June now. I can't wait until June. I can't wait to see the spectacle, the circus that's going to be out there. It's literally going to be, they're going to be taking Bryan Kohberger out of the jail and then putting people into the jail. They're going to be like, we have only room enough for 20 people in this jail. Your wife has one? Oh man, I want a Cricut so bad now. I never wanted. Well, okay, so I lied. I wanted one when I used to do gift wrapping. This is kind of off topic, but I used to do gift wrapping, and I wanted a Cricut, and then it like never, because I wanted to make my own like gift wrap. But then I didn't realize what they were for, and now that I do, I'm like, oh, so I want like a press machine too, because I own a boutique, and I think it would be fun just to make like shirts anyway. Some like, especially if you can't get them like during holiday or during, you know, some like stuff, like I just like think they'd be cute if I could make them. But when I say I would make them, I mean, Vincent would make them because I'm so bad. Oh no one's a level of Dolly. Dolly's in his own right. He was on a live the other day and I couldn't even turn it on. I would just laugh so hard. They make portable showers, Brooke? Oh, well, shoot. Sign me up. That's what I need then. I need to get me a portable shower. I need van. No, that's what I would do. That's how extra I am. Like, Vincent would probably go buy me a van so that I wouldn't sleep in a tent. I could see him doing that just for this purpose too. Yeah, TF, I know you're in Washington State, but like, that's close enough. I mean, because, you know, compared to the mother-in-law. No, I'm just kidding. She's great. Vincent's mom's great. She really is. She's like the cutest little lady. I mean, you know, she just really is. I guess I could put my camera on because I, you know, have my green on today. So no one can say they're going to pinch me. That's tomorrow, but you know. Oh, and speaking of which today, I know my brother doesn't watch my show because he doesn't even know. I don't think that I do YouTube. But Tony, if you are, which I don't call him Anthony, but Tony, if you're watching, happy birthday. Stop getting older. I love you so much. You're making my heart hurt, but that's my brother and it's his birthday today. And I think he's 46. And I'm just like, oh my God. I do, Linda. So my name of my boutique, I'll put it in the chat for you. It's Poppy and Ari with an I because I'm weird. And I'll put the link. So I'm just online right now, so I'll put the link for it. If you guys ever want to shop at my boutique, I do own a boutique. I love it. I love having a store. That's the link for it. If you use the code, I'll put the banner up. If you use the code YouTube, all capitalized 20, you'll get 20% off your order. So let's see. I think there was a couple other ones I was going to show you. But I think I'll just wait. Yeah, I think I'll just wait. I think that we saw enough of Bryan Kohberger for one day. Maybe we'll watch this one really quick, actually. This one, I don't know if this one has anything we haven't seen, though. Let me check. I think it does. So, okay, we'll play this one really quick. Maybe. It's been a while since I was on this, so I don't know if it'll play. I think it was this one. No, yeah, it was this one.
The people that are really still picking up the pieces left behind by, of course, the murders of those 4 university students last year. Defendant Bryan Kohberger is accused of carrying out that heinous crime. And this morning, he's going to be waking up, or maybe he's already woken up, in his Idaho jail cell, awaiting his preliminary hearing. He's got a long wait for that one. It's scheduled in June. His defense team wanted that. The state agreed to it. And this is a move many believe was a strategic play by prosecutors, maybe to stack their case against this guy some more. Now, it's been 4 months, almost to the day, really, because the 13th, November 13th, was the day that Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Gonsalves, and Madison Mogen were stabbed to death in their home in those early morning hours of November 13th. And the memories of those 4 students certainly has not been lost on anybody who's connected to the community or to the university. It is a very tight-knit culture there. Let's go to Moscow, Idaho now together, where we find Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who has the latest for us on the case against Bryan Kohberger and reaction from a neighbor of those victims.
Hey, good morning, Julie. I'm here on the campus of the University of Idaho, where just 4 months ago, 4 students were brutally murdered steps from campus. It rocked this community and this campus, and now the university is working to help students heal and move forward. You mentioned the university is creating a memorial in honor of the victims. What will that mean to the students there?
I think it'll be a nice way to remember the 4, or even take their children, if and when they have children, and be like, I was friends with these people, they were wonderful, they died too young.
Jeremy Reagan is a University of Idaho law student and lives a few doors down from where Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were murdered. In the weeks after the stabbings, Reagan was accused by web sleuths as being the killer.
For some people, it was definitely worse than others. I know the various Jacks and Jakes, they got hammered up until the day that Kohlberger was arrested. And for a while, I got it, I want to say bad, but compared to them, it was mild. But it was relentless. It wouldn't stop. No matter what you did, it got worse. And so eventually I learned just ignore it, be quiet, and it'll pass when someone gets caught.
When Bryan Kohberger was arrested on December 30th, it was a sort of vindication for Reagan.
Now all these people can stop blaming the friends, the exes, the parents, because I know some people blamed the parents. It was nice that someone was finally arrested so that people could stop speculating about all the random people that are just tangentially involved.
As the victim's family and friends, along with millions who follow the case, wait for the preliminary hearing, everyone hopes for answers.
Why them? Why that house? Why that night? Just all of it. Hopefully, either through the court documents or maybe a deathbed confession at some point.
A preliminary hearing is much like a mini trial. The prosecution will call witnesses and introduce evidence. Prosecutor Bill Thompson will be at the helm of the state's case. He graduated from the University of Idaho College of Law in 1980. He was elected Latah County prosecutor in 1992. The defense can cross-examine the state's witnesses during the preliminary hearing. Bryan Kohberger's public defender, Ann Taylor, will likely be doing the questioning. Taylor is an Idaho native, is death penalty certified, and is the elected Kootenai County public defender. If the judge concludes that there is probable cause to believe that the crime was committed by the defendant, then she will bound the case over to district court and an arraignment date will be set. If the judge does not believe the evidence establishes probable cause, the judge will dismiss the charges against Kohlberger. And Julie, Court TV cameras will be there to bring it to our viewers live. That preliminary hearing is expected to begin on June 26th. For now, I'll send it back to you.
All right, our thanks to Chanley Painter this morning. I'm going to bring in my guest now and talk some more about that upcoming preliminary hearing in Silver Spring, Maryland. Trial attorney Michelle Thomas is with us, and in Knoxville, Tennessee, criminal defense attorney Greg Isaacs with us as well. Good morning to you both. Thank you so much for coming on the program today. Oh, let's talk about this preliminary hearing, shall we? Starting with the defense strategy to have one, because I want to back up for a second and make it really clear that certainly it's Bryan Kohberger's right to have one. But we all know that in criminal court, and I want our viewers to know this, practically speaking, oftentimes you see defendants waive their case, especially when the evidence is strong, and say, you know what, I'm going to waive my right to have one, just send it up to the bigger court and then fight this thing at trial. Greg Isaacs, did it surprise you that here there wasn't a decision to waive this?
Well, Julie, in a case of this nature, one, you want to do everything you can to gain information, test the prosecutor's proof. So, what you do is you use the preliminary hearing, even though it's a hearing with a very low threshold of proof. A preponderance of the evidence is all the state has to prove. So sometimes you wonder why the prosecution puts on so much of their case. Because you just have a very low standard to move the case forward. But as a defense lawyer, you want to get discovery, even though that's not the purpose. So you want to test the evidence, see the evidence. So that's basically what you do. But Julie, back to your take, one of the hardest things defense lawyers overlook, with the biggest things is, when is it appropriate to waive a prelim? And in some cases, you don't want the pretrial publicity. Often, if a prosecutor will give me early discovery, because you can't get full discovery in lower level courts like Sessions Court, you waive the preliminary hearing so you can get your experts started on analyzing the very important scientific forensic evidence and formulate your trial strategy. So, something that we don't do that you have highlighted is waiving the prelim. It looks like you're doing nothing, but you could be doing a lot to help your client.
Appreciate it, Greg. Yeah, I guess when I'm thinking about this, I always, and I like the expression, is the juice worth the squeeze? For the defense, I mean, there is no magistrate judge in America who's not going to bind this thing over to the higher court, or hold it, whatever the jurisdiction terminology is. Where I practiced, it was holding a case, for the Court of Common Pleas. Like, nobody's going to kick it, nobody. So I would think, what's the benefit? So I guess that's why but appreciate those points you made, Greg. Those are excellent. For the defense, it might be a time to kind of unofficially get some discovery and figure out which way the wind is blowing. Michelle Thomas, speaking of that, some are wondering, are we going to see anybody else arrested here in this case with Mr. Kohlberger? We know this thing's set really far out in June. What do you think about this? Do you think it's likely we're going to hear about anybody else as a co-defendant here? You think he's going to be the cheese that stands alone, so to speak?
Yeah, good morning. And that's a great question. And I think that remains to be seen based upon the data, the evidence that's going to be presented from all the subpoenas that were served, all the search warrants that were issued in this case. And so based upon the preliminary hearing, we'll get a chance to see whether or not there is possibly someone else that could be involved. I don't think, based upon what we've heard so far, that there's going to be another actor here. It looks like all hands and fingers are pointing toward this one defendant, but that does remain to be seen.
I didn't know that was going to go off like that. I wasn't ready for that. Okay. I think that was all I was going to show you guys. I'm Libra too. I was just getting ready to say that. I'm a Libra. That's probably why I'm so angry all the time, y'all. I'm just like, get your crap together so I can stop balancing everybody out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm usually always in a good mood. I feel like I am anyway. I put the picture back up of them because they look better than my little avatar thing. I'm really surprised that I was able to go this long without having the dogs knocking on the door. Like, literally, they knock on the door with the one does with her nose. I'm surprised. You're like, oh, look at that, Ashley. I'm 10/17/85. I almost said 10/10 like you. So we are 7 days apart. I love that. So my Libra sign is in I'm like in the middle. I have a book on it. I need to read more into it. I have there's two books that a lot of people talk about, like when they talk about, one's like with birthdays and one's with like relationships. And these are like these two books that a lot of people talk about when they talk about, different astrology signs and what they mean and all of that different things. So my friend got me these books when I was in the hospital, and they're literally probably 800 pages long. And I'm like, yeah, I'll never read these. But there's certain chapters I do want to read. I just haven't read them yet. And I've had these books for 10 years. So I'll get right on that. And that's so funny because I love to read, but I haven't read those. Which maybe I'll do that this year or this summer, because I'm going to be enjoying the summer. Can't do Dolly anymore. Oh, I can definitely tell that I'm a Libra. What are the books? I'm trying to think. So one of them is like It talks all about like birthdays, and the other one talks all about like relationships. I'll have to, whenever I go in the other room, I'll have to write that down and tell you guys what they are. I got them forever ago. And then, so when I got them, I was in the hospital and my friend was like marking all these different pages for like my life at the time. And it would be funny to go back and just look at the pages she marked. Cause I have like, I even have like little tarot cards, but they scare Vincent. I'm like, they're just tarot cards. They're like those ones that they're not even like probably legit. They're probably just ones that, I don't know like what legit cards look like, but you know what I mean? They're just like probably some from like a novelty store. I don't know, a friend got them for me, but it's so funny. Teresa, I'm not going to make, what did Teresa say? She say the courts, oh yeah. 3 to 4 years for Gannon Stouch. Yeah. I've been, oh my Lord, that's a case that is insane. I don't even know where to start. I've been trying to, so I know, okay, I've got like the key players, and I've got like some stuff wrote down, but there's just so many different, like she's just said so much different things. So I think that what we're going to do is I'm going to just try to find like the press conferences and things like that. And then we're just going to have like an open panel. That way you guys can help teach me about the case, because this lady's insane. She's not, I don't know. She's trying to use that. Well, she's trying to use that as an excuse, but you got to be something. Evil stepmother isn't even the right word for this woman. Oh, same birthday as your son, Linda. Oh, your son must be pretty freaking cool then. That's awesome. I have a lot, I hear of a lot of birthdays on my birthday, like same birthday as me, but I love it. Teresa, you probably know so much about the case. If you have anything that you can think of that you can send me, let me know. Cause, I've just been trying to read up on it, just trying to watch as much stuff as I can. There's a lot of people that are doing like lives on this case, which is good. Not a ton of people, but there are people, and I want people to, definitely be on this case. This little boy deserves justice. And his parents, my heart breaks for those two people. Sorry, I was just like reading your, if I get quiet, I always tell you guys it's because I'm reading the chat. Oh, there they are. There goes my one dog crying. Yeah, she likes to do that. She'll be crying for just a second. I have a Weimaraner, if you don't know. Actually, let me see. I can put a picture of her up here. Let me edit my avatar. Oh, she just knocked on the door. You can kind of see her. She's the gray one. So she's the one that's knocking right now. I can hear her with her little paw. I'll be right there, Mia. I just took him on a walk right before I came on, literally right before I came on. So it hasn't even been 2 hours. They're working me today. They're definitely working me today. And they like these little collars I've been putting on them, and they've been falling right off of them. And I'm just like, oh, that's not cool, dogs. So now we have to get them new collars. But I guess I will jump off of here to go let my doggies out. I don't know if it's like if it's nice where you guys are at right now, but it's beautiful here today. It is 60 degrees and the sun is out. Bubblegum tarot cards. Yeah, pretty much. But I do like to do like a little tarot reading every now and again. It's basically just to make yourself feel better. Like you're like, oh, that's good. Hopefully the cards are good, but And hopefully if you guys are not in the chat, but you're just listening, hopefully you like the live today. You appreciate the coverage. And next time, hopefully you'll be in the chat. Don't forget to like the video if you guys wouldn't mind. It really does help my channel out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to all new content. I do have new videos coming out every evening at 6 o'clock. So they're just like little short videos for y'all, just in case I'm not on a live. But I will see you guys all in the next live. And you guys all have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye, guys.